everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Sooner Girl Sports Pod. It is episode 11, and my guest this week is Carly Murray. And Carly is the coordinator partnership services for Sooner Sports Properties, and she is also a sideline reporter for OU baseball. Carly was born and raised in Houston, and she spent the first 5 years of her life in baseball parks with her mom watching her dad play baseball. Sports has always been a part of her life since she was a little kid. She came to OU with dreams of being a sports broadcaster, and she works full-time with Sooner Sports Properties while being an on-air talent for OU. She ended up at OU because her cousin Kyler Murray was our quarterback in 2018. Her favorite Sooner memory is Jackson Nicholas' walk-off home run in the 2024 Big 12 tournament. I have a great conversation with Carly this week to share, and she talks about her family, athletic genetics, how she ended up at OU, a little more about what she does at her job, and of course, OU baseball. So I hope that you enjoy this week's conversation with Carly Murray. This week's episode is brought to you by Ham Oil Company. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I'm so honored that you asked. I love the Chaos shirt.
Thank you. I love highlighting, sometimes those like men's gymnastics kind of gets a little swept under the rug, I guess. A lot of people focus on the women, which is fantastic. Obviously, you're a big Sooner fan, and it's just incredible. So I followed you. I don't really know how I found you like years ago. To be honest, it was probably something like you were tagged in with Kyler. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that's his cousin. That's so cool. And I've just, followed you ever since. So anyway, so you gave me a little background on yourself, being from Houston and, growing up on the field and kind of how you ended up at OU and everything. So tell me a little bit about yourself and just kind of that journey.
Yeah. So I guess I'll just start from the beginning. My dad played baseball at the University of Texas. So I actually grew up a Longhorn. Some people don't know that about me, but I did. My parents are season ticket holders. I went to all the ball games and everything and loved it. And so whenever I got to high school, I'm looking at colleges, and of course I'm like, Texas, duh, that's what I grew up rooting for. And then I realized, okay, Texas is extremely hard to get into. I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but it is the hardest school to get into in the state of Texas. If you are not in the top 7%, they basically don't even look at you. And I had 1,032 students in my graduating class. And so so I was like, okay, I don't think I could get into Texas as much as I would like to. And I knew I still wanted to go to a big state school with sports and everything. The neighbors across the street from me growing up, their daughters were about 5 to 7 years older than me. And they went to OU and they loved it. And they were kind of like the cool big girls growing up, who I looked up to. And then Kyler's breakout year was my senior year of high school. And he was killing it. He loved Norman. And that's when I was really considering OU. I was like, okay, Dad, how about we go up there, we do a tour, we go do a game, and go check it out. And so we flew in on a Friday. The tour campus was beautiful. I mean, It was early November, so the mums are blooming.
That's the best.
Orange. Yeah, it was so Hallmark movie. So I just fell in love with it. I was like, this is amazing. And then we went to the game Saturday night. I can't even remember who they played. I feel like it was Texas Tech, but I'm not 100% sure. But the game was so fun. And so I was like, I love it here. I'm going to school here. This was just so fun. And so that's what really got me hooked on Oklahoma, just that experience. And the people were so kind. I will say I did get more of an exclusive experience coming up
That's okay.
Just getting to meet people and everything, and probably being related to Kyler helped a little bit. It was just awesome. And I loved how heartwarming the people are in the state of Oklahoma. Everybody's so kind, and it was just it is such a great home away from home, just especially being far from family. So that's what got me to Oklahoma. And I was like, I want to be a sports broadcaster. So I was heavily involved in Gaylord College whenever I was a student here in Oklahoma. So involved in all the sports shows and everything, heavily involved with football and then baseball. My senior year, I was able to start sideline reporting for TV. And I was like, I love this. This is so much fun. Skip Johnson, the head coach of OU baseball, great family friend of ours. Like he calls me like
Okay.
his stepdaughter. He's great. Like when
That's
my power
awesome.
went out in college, yeah, I would go stay with him and his wife Kathy. Like they're just
Aw.
really great people. And like my dad knows some of the other staff for baseball connections and everything. So yeah, that's what I started doing that, and I loved it so much. And I was a senior in college looking for a job, and I was like, okay, I would love to stay in Norman or go back to Houston. Like, I don't want to start somewhere new. And so
Right.
applying for jobs, and I saw Learfield had a posting, and then I met with my boss, Kelly Collier, who was amazing. And he was like, hey, I want you to come in our office and be a coordinator for us and work with our top sponsors, as well as being an on-air talent for OU, continue your work with baseball and just grow you as a broadcaster. So that's what I'm doing now. So I work
Wow.
full-time Center Sports Properties as a partnership services coordinator, basically activation, day to day, working with sponsors like MidFirst Bank, Coca Cola, OU Health, Paycom.
Okay.
I have a lot of the alcohol partners, Anheuser-Busch, Dos Equis. So that definitely is fun and keeps me super busy. But that's kind of a snippet on my upbringing a little bit. And then I feel like I may have said this. I feel like I don't exactly remember giving my dad a little bit more credit. So I started the first 5 years of my life going from ballpark to ballpark with my mom. So my dad played baseball at the University of Texas, and then his junior year he was a first round draft pick, and he started his career with the San Francisco Giants. So they were
Okay.
with the AAA team, worked his way up, and then he got traded to the Cubs and then the Rangers. So he played 13 professional seasons of baseball. And
Oh,
those last
wow.
five, yeah, those last five, they had me. So my mom was single momming it for half of the year with little
Uh-huh.
baby Carly on her hip, taking me to the ballpark and, letting my dad get to sleep and rest. And so she was super duper great. So that's what really got me hooked on baseball. I was like, wait, I didn't mention dad enough, but he teaches me so much about the game. He continues to teach me so much about the game. I text him during games all the time.
Uh-huh.
I debrief with him. It's just he means a lot to me. He is just like my best friend. I talk to him outside of baseball stuff a lot of the time, but he teaches
That's
me a lot.
awesome.
So I feel like that's kind of my background. My long story short, one day I'll learn how to shorten it, but
Oh my
I
gosh,
feel like
no.
it's always helpful. Just the family background. I just grew up with it. Don't know any different.
You certainly did. You literally grew up at the ballpark, so that's incredible. Okay, so your dad played baseball. Did Kyler's? So is your dad obviously is how you're related to him? So did Kyler's dad also play baseball?
Yeah. So
Okay,
my
so it
uncle.
runs in the genes.
Yeah, so I'm probably going to butcher the story a little bit. So Uncle Kevin, if you hear me, forgive me. But he played football and baseball all throughout high school. That's what all the Murray boys did. My dad grew up with five
Wow,
siblings. So my grandma and grandpa are champ, and they raised six kids. And
that's
so
incredible.
yeah, incredible. So he played baseball and football, and then he played football at Texas A&M, set a
Okay,
bunch of
yes.
records there, and he got injured. I believe he broke his ankle, and so he obviously wants to play at the next level. A lot of teams are very like about his injury, and so I think he did play a little bit, and the Canadian League didn't really
Okay,
love that, and so he did play some minor ball for a little bit. So he did play a little bit of baseball, but he was always a football guy, for
okay.
sure. But yeah, he did get a little bit of that pro ball experience a little bit.
You know, being a dual athlete is pretty common in high school, but not so much in college. And, Kyler did that briefly. And, now we have two guys, and I've drawn a blank on one of them. The only name I can remember is James Nesta.
And Taylor Tatum, he's a
Taylor
running back.
Tatum. I don't know why that escaped me. But yeah, that's crazy to me to think about. I mean, I'm sure those guys have similar stories of growing up, just immersed in sports, and obviously they're very talented athletes. So I haven't been out to a baseball game yet this season, but I will be next Friday actually.
Hey, nice Mississippi State first
Yes,
SEC game at
I'm
L.
ready.
Dale.
Yes. So I kind of made it my mission last summer to make all of the SEC home openers
Oh, that's
for
awesome.
all
When
the
did
major
OU?
sports. Yes, all the major sports, and then I made soccer was actually the very first SEC event on campus.
Yep.
So I hit that, and of course football, and I did gymnastics, softball, men's and women's basketball, and now I've got baseball coming up. So I'm ready.
Yes, it's great. The weather's been so nice too, and like the
Yes.
boys are so good. I mean, the pitching staff is so stout.
Incredible.
The offense has been great. It seems like there's depth everywhere, maybe a different depth that we haven't had in the last
Yes.
couple years. And so, yeah, it's exciting.
I'm beyond ready. Last week, softball and baseball, they were 30-0 and undefeated, and that was just incredible. And then unfortunately our guys lost in Dallas last midweek, but they've rebounded nicely. They had a great weekend at home. I'm excited to get out this season and check out the stadium. There's lots of new amenities, especially in the outfield in the berm area. I'm excited to see that. So has that brought a lot of liveliness to the field, do you feel like?
It really has. So I'll go ahead and start with left field first. So left field is still just free seating, but it's for students. So that's kind of the new student section out there. So, you have your frat boys bringing out the couches and the chairs and recliners and their ping pong tables and their alcoholic beverages and things out there. And man, they know how to heckle. I mean, it was Friday of the Sam Houston State Series, and I'm in the dugout and I can hear everything they're saying. And I'm like, they're ready for conference play. I mean,
that's
when
awesome.
LSU's coming to town and Vanderbilt and Texas, I mean, that makes a difference, right? That's part of home field advantage. And so that's awesome out there because I feel like those guys are really locked in and tuned into that. And then on the right side, you have section 405. And so that's kind of like the high patio seating. And so we've had a couple groups out there. I think it'll really, really burst once conference play starts.
I think
so. Because we're playing so good, everybody kind of wants to be in the stadium and having view, But yeah, it's really, really neat out there, section 405. So
that's exciting.
Get people up on the outfield wall and to heckle them and distract them and mess with them. So it's a really great atmosphere.
That's awesome. I think, I've been to other baseball stadiums where it is more enclosed and there are people out, in the outfield and such. And that hasn't always been the case in Norman, obviously with the berm, which there's always been people out there, chilling for free, coming, which is great. But I think this definitely, like you said, adds another dimension, especially for conference play, which is huge. So, yeah, I'm ready. My husband loves baseball, so he's actually a poke, but I know.
We'll keep him anyways if he's coming to games. If he's still supporting us, we'll tolerate
exactly.
him.
Yes. So he's an OSU grad, but he loves baseball, and I was giving him a hard time because he said, "Oh, I want to go to Norman to see this team and this team and this team," and I was just like, "Yeah, you want to come to Norman to see all the good SEC teams."
Yeah, I'm sure he's got Ole Miss, Texas, LSU.
Yes, LSU, yeah. But I was really impressed this year because normally I don't really have a hard time getting tickets or anything. But my ticket guy this season, he said the stadium is pretty much sold out with season tickets, which is fantastic. A long time coming for that crew, I believe. Skip has worked really hard to build that up and has a great program, so I'm glad that it's getting the support. But I was able to snag a couple of seats behind home plate, like up by the press box. So yeah. So I'm excited. Yeah, that's where I like to be. So I'm very excited about that. So anyway, yeah, I'll be there a few times coming up, and I could not be more excited. I was listening to Skip and Easton Carmichael. They were at
on the huddle
Monday night. So I listened to that this morning. Just listening to them talk was a lot of fun. And Skip really seems like he's just a fun dude. I mean, I've never met him, obviously. I don't really know what to expect from him, but listening to him, that guy, he's something else. And he seems like he loves the university. He loves the kids and like really investing in them and creating, helping them turn into good men and just, looking toward the future and not just what he puts on the field, which is fantastic. But the good part is he's also putting a great product out on the field and really putting out those good players, and it's so fun to watch. And so the Witherspoon twins are really incredible. They have been fun. I've watched a little on TV, obviously, and followed on social media and everything. They're just having a tremendous season so far.
They really, really are, and it's no surprise, right? So Skip found these guys. I believe at Northwest Florida State College. It's a longer name, so I'm trying to make sure I'm getting it right, like 2 years ago. And I mean, when Skip went out there, he was like, man, these two are something special and they can make a lot of money one day. And like Skip is just, he's one of the best pitching coaches in the country. Like he has been his entire career.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, that's an easy sell to the Witherspoon twins, right? And just to your point earlier, Skip is just, he's amazing. He has a great heart. Like my dad always says that Skip is probably like the best person he knows. And so, to Mama Witherspoon, Miss Meg, I love her so much. She's great. And she was like, yep, like this is a deal. Like I know he's going to develop you guys into being great young men. I know he's going to help you become a better athlete. And Skip has just done that. And so what I love to hear about too is just how much that they have grown as men and as leaders. Like I believe on the huddle, Skip was saying that, I believe it was Malachi, I could be wrong, don't quote me, was helping out like a young player with this form from another team. And so that was just so nice, just naturally, like Malachi's just watching and he's like, hey buddy, like maybe try turning it on a little bit or hold the ball this way or whatever it may be. Like, so they're just really, really great people, and their mom's done a great job. Like they're thoughtful, they're kind, they're great athletes. I'm really looking forward to see where they go next after their baseball career ends. Yeah.
That's awesome. So one person in play, I guess, that stuck out to me over the years is Kendall Pettis. And I will never forget him making that catch on the third baseline way out and like flipping
Virginia
over the
Tech,
wall.
yep.
I think it was in the World Series, wasn't it? Or postseason?
Yeah, it was in the postseason. I believe it was the Virginia Tech Super Regional.
Okay,
whenever he made that catch. Yes.
I could not remember if it was actually at the World Series or not, but yeah, I will never forget that. That was just a crazy.
It's like
thing.
No way. And he does his little handstand. He hops back up and he's like, I got it. Like,
there's not much else that excites me more than a good catch in softball or baseball, like the slides, the flipping, all
don't
the
understand the athleticism it takes to have your timing perfectly from the jump to the closing of your glove.
Yes.
Like it takes a lot of athletic ability to be able to do that.
It truly does.
He was a great defender.
Absolutely. I heard a couple of weeks ago he was up in the booth with Toby, and I didn't get to listen then. And I think that's really cool for him. So I guess he's still obviously around Norman and maybe perhaps going into the media side himself.
Yeah, so his first broadcast was the Saturday of the CSUN series, I believe.
Okay, yes.
Yes, Saturday of the CSUN series, and he just killed it. So yes, you're right, he's still here. So last year was Kendall's 5th year on the team, and he was in grad school. So he was starting his master's program, just kind of using that COVID year. And so he's still here finishing up his master's program. Sense. His mom was like, you're going to finish. She's super great. Mrs. Pettis. That's what he's still doing up here. And then he works a little bit also with the Suitor Club with donor engagement and all of that. So that's what he's still doing here. And Toby hit him up preseason and said, hey, like we would love to have you on the broadcast as a color analyst. And he's just doing it. I told him last week, I was like, you've been teaching me so much about the game. Like, even though I haven't started on the broadcast yet, I'll start for conference play. But,
that's so exciting.
Yeah, so I've been like listening, like I've been at the games and in the dugout down in the media well and stuff. But I'm like, you've taught me so much, like the insight that he brought about Jason Walk being out in center field. And so there was a little miscommunication between him and Trey Gamble, the left fielder. And so, they're both like, I got it. And neither of them ended up catching the ball because of the miscommunication. And so Kendall brought the insight that this center fielder has first priority. Like that is their field. They are kind of top dogs. So like if your center fielder is sprinting, he said, I got it. He's got it. And you're just there as backup. And so that was something where I was like, oh wow, like I didn't realize like that, how much of their domain it is. Because I mean, that ball, it was hit, it looked like it was going towards center, and then it started going like left center. So I understand why Trey Gamble kind of thought like, okay, like I got this. But I mean, Jaywalk, he was sprinting so hard, and he also knew he had the momentum from running so hard that he could throw the ball and get the runner out. I can't remember if it was third base or home plate, but he had that momentum from sprinting because I mean he has an arm. And so that was the insight that Kendall brought to the broadcast, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Those who haven't played the game don't understand that, and especially because he was just in that system, he was just in that offense and defense, so he knows exactly what Reggie's how Reggie runs the game plan. And I've really appreciated his insight. It's helped a lot as well. And so I'm so excited for his season to continue in this role. And hopefully he'll kind of stick.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really exciting for him. And like you said, bringing the insight to that, because I certainly did not know that about the outfield. So that's good to know. So you said for our conference play, you're heading up to the booth?
Well, I'll still be doing sideline stuff. Yeah, I know. My boss Kelly, he jokes all the time. He's like, "You could do color for baseball," and I'm like, "Absolutely not." I was like, "I have not played." They like I would not be bringing any helpful insight whatsoever in that regard in an analyst role. But yeah, I was just on the phone this morning with Sooner Vision, and so I think next week they'll have all my audio and stuff set up to do TV for the Mississippi State series, and then the times that I won't be doing TV, I'll be on radio with Toby, which will be really fun. I started doing radio last year during the Big 12 tournament, and I loved it. Radio is so much fun. So I'm excited to be doing both and to continue to grow as a broadcaster. So yes, you should be hearing me next week.
That is so exciting. I will be listening for sure. So Toby is awesome. Like, I've listened to him for years, and I've had the honor to meet him in person on a few occasions. And he is just an amazing human. I actually met him after a Bedlam baseball game a couple of years ago, and I had messaged him on Instagram and said, "Hey, my husband and I are going to be at the Bedlam game. You know, my husband's a Poke, and I would love to have your card with all, the field layout and all the names and stats and everything." And he was like, "Oh yeah, absolutely. Just come find me after the game and you can have it." So he was so kind. I still have that. I'm looking at it right now. But he was so kind to, sign that for me, and we took a photo, and I've attended the ladies clinics for football that Brent has done. Yeah, the last couple of years. So I've seen him there as well, and I'll catch him and just say, "Hi, I met you before." And he is so kind. I know he's probably one of those that, everybody recognizes him, and they're always wanting to talk to him, and he probably sees 1,000 people a day, but he will act like he knows exactly who you are and and what you're talking about. So I'm excited for you to get up there and get to work with him. So I'll be looking and listening for you.
Yeah. And just to piggyback off of that, like, Toby truly is an incredible person. Like, what you see is what you get. Like, he's always so intentional, whether it's like with fans or coaches or players or me as a young broadcaster trying to learn. Like, he has been such a great mentor to me. Like, it's just been so great to have him. I really started working with him more, I feel like, this past season with radio. I would work with him some on TV previously whenever we would have the simulcast, and he was doing both the TV and the radio broadcast. Once I moved to the radio side of things, like, he was really challenging me. He was like, "Hey, Carly, like, I want you to be on air like every inning. Like, I want you to have to contribute something to the broadcast every single inning. Like, I want you to ask these questions." Like, just always growing me or wanting me to grow and just challenge me, which is just so nice, because I want that. That's the only reason I'm going to grow, is if somebody cares enough to pour into me and give me opportunities. And so it's just been really nice to have him as a mentor, because this business is scary. It can be intimidating, like you're just throwing yourself out there, and the more you learn, the better you get. It's just by getting reps and doing it over and over. And so I'm so thankful that he wants me to grow. He wants that for me. Awesome. And so it's just been super great to have him.
That's awesome. So when it was announced a couple of weeks ago about him starting his new role with News 9 in the summer, I think we all skipped a heartbeat a little bit, thinking, I hope he's not leaving us, as Sooners, selfishly, because I grew up listening to Bob Berry. And so when he retired, it's funny, it actually popped up in my Facebook memories like a week or so ago, where I had gotten to meet Bob Berry, and he signed his book that he had written. And I believe it was 2011 or 12 when he retired. And my caption on my photo that day on Facebook was something about how Sooner Radio would never be the same again. And yeah, that's true, because he was Bob Berry, and he was incredible. But Toby, who took over that role and has more than fulfilled it. I mean, no one could ever be disappointed in Toby, because he is incredible. And anytime there's a good play in basketball, football, baseball, I can't wait to hear the radio call, if I'm not listening to it at the time, depending on what I'm doing.
I get goosebumps. Like
I do too.
it's such.
I do too, and I'll share them, like in my stories and things on social media. So when they pop back up in my memories, I'll watch them again. I don't care if they're 2, 3, 4, or 5 years old. I'm going to listen to it again because it's Toby and he's incredible. And I know we're probably partial as OU fans, but if I'm listening to another team or somebody on the radio and I'm listening to their announcers and I'm going, "Where's Toby? Like Toby needs to do everything." Because
I know a lot of Sooner fans do this, and I have too. Very guilty. Like if OU's away and I'm watching the broadcast, I will mute that broadcast, get my phone, put on the varsity app, and I'm like, "All right, Toby."
Oh, absolutely. I do that with softball. I do not listen to the TV announcers. I can't do it. Now, there are occasions when Plank may be on TV, like if it's on Sooner Vision or ESPN Plus, and that's fine. But usually I'm like, mute the TV, turn up the phone. There are some exceptions. I will say that. I think the other night at the softball game, Nicole Mendez and DJ Sanchez, I think they were actually on the radio, and Plank and Destiny, I guess, were on the TV call. But anyway, there are some exceptions with the TV, but for the most part, I'm with you. I would much rather listen to Toby. Yeah, we're very spoiled as OU fans to have who we think is the best of the best on the radio, and we're definitely thankful and should be for that because they're incredible and they're good mentors for you.
They really are. Chris Plank is also like another one. It's funny because I haven't worked with him as much, but in the fall I was interviewing some players.
Okay. Yeah.
Sports podcast. Like it was so great. At first I was doing them for the pregame radio show for football. We extended it 2 hours. It was 3 hours. And so they're like, "Hey, we would love to do Carly to do some player interviews, to give us some content for it." And so I did that with a couple players, and that was fun, like Bauer Sharp, Luke Elzinga.
Oh, nice.
Luke and I talked so much for almost an hour, they decided to put on the podcast app. And so that was really awesome. Cool to just be able to contribute in that way. But all that to say, that's kind of Chris's domain, the Sooner Sports podcast.
Yes.
And so he was so great. Like I would do the podcast or do the interview. I would send it to him and I'd be like, what feedback do you have? Like, how do I need to get better? Like, what was good? What was bad? Like, I want feedback so bad. I'm like, you cannot hurt my feelings. Like, I want to grow and improve so much. Like, just tell me anything. And he's like, "No, I thought you did a great job." I'm like, one bad thing.
One bad thing.
Like, come on. But no, like he's super uplifting and encouraging. And I feel like that's also important as I'm a young broadcaster. Like confidence is everything. And, of course, not being cocky, you have to be humble, but just feeling confident is huge. And I feel like he's helped my confidence a lot by just telling me, "Hey, you're doing a great job. Like you're 23. Nobody's expecting you to come out here and be Holly Rowe." And I'm like, "You're exactly right."
That is so true, but you've got to start somewhere, and that's awesome. I love Plank. I think he's a great guy. I actually had him on my podcast. I think he was episode 3 or 4.
Oh, that's great.
I had him on one episode and we talked about all the things, and I'm sure I'll have him on again because, I guess that's the price he's going to have to pay for being my friend. But back to what, you mentioned about Holly Rowe. Holly Rowe's amazing. We all love her. So is that kind of like your dreams? Like you want to be like a Holly Rowe someday?
Yeah, it's so funny. I know what I would love to do is to continue to do sideline reporting. Now, what specifically, I don't know. Like, I think my dream right now, what I'm working towards is I would love to be a sideline reporter for ESPN. I think it would be so fun to do college football or do college baseball. Like, sometimes I'm like, working for a team specifically would be really fun, kind of what I'm doing now, because you really get to know those guys, right? I know I want to continue to grow as a broadcaster and hopefully get to work for like ESPN or Fox Sports. So that's kind of what I'm working towards. We'll see what exactly happens. Yeah, like Holly Rowe is definitely somebody I look up to. Like Alyssa Lang, she works for SEC Network.
Yes.
I actually got to meet her whenever she was here for the July 1st festivities. And
that's so cool. Yes.
It was so great. and just kind of a connection too that I also have. So we'll see
That's
what happens. I'm
fantastic.
just trying to build that resume and reel and just
Yes.
see where the Lord leads me. So
Awesome. Well, good for you. I think it's fantastic that we have such strong women like that to look up to on all levels. And I mean, like I said, I know I'm on a smaller scale, but that was kind of my thing is I feel like there's not a lot of women that take up space, so to speak, in the sports world, especially with the male dominated sports like, football, baseball. And so it's nice to see those women like that. Like Holly Rowe can go into anything and own it. And that's just incredible. And I love that for her. And I am certainly not trying to be Holly Rowe, don't get me wrong. But like I just wanted to make that for myself. And I mean, I kind of created a space for myself to fangirl about all the OU things, basically, is what I've done. But I've just been reaching out to people like, hey, I like what you're doing, especially as a female, and let's capitalize on that and let's showcase that because I think it's important to give women their space and to for little girls to have girls to look up to. And even you as a 20 something year old, you're still looking up to Holly Rowe and these other people, but there's little girls that are looking up to you that may see you on the sideline or hear you on the radio and they're looking up to you. And I think it's important to showcase that. So whatever small corner of the world that I'm influencing, that is my goal to do that. So again, I'm thankful that you came on with me just to talk about what you're doing because I think it's incredible that you have those aspirations and you're working hard toward them and you've got a lot of people supporting you. So that's fantastic.
no, well, thank you. I appreciate you just asking me to be on. Like, I'm so happy to join. So just thanks for having me. Yeah, this has
Absolutely.
been fun.
Well, thank you. Before I let you go, tell me a little bit more just about what you do for your job. Cool that you work in media. Sooner Sports Properties is media, obviously. And so they make a lot of incredible content. And so tell me a little bit about like what's your role in all of that?
Yeah. Okay. So being a coordinator for Sooner Sports Properties, I help manage about $5 million in business. So I work with my associate GM, Brian McKinnell, and he's the seller. So he's going out selling these deals, and I just work on the back end of it and just
Okay.
activate them and make sure everybody gets what they pay for. So whether it's signage in one of our arenas or a radio spot,
Mm-hmm.
or a presentation at a game, like a check presentation,
Oh, yeah.
or NIL. Like now, that's a whole other field
Yes.
now that our office
Yes.
is a part of. And so basically, I just kind of make sure people get what they pay for, just combing through contracts because everybody has different things. And so the three biggest accounts that I work on are MidFirst Bank, Coca-Cola, and OU Health. They're three of our 7 premier partners. So that's what I do with Sooner Sports Property. So the multimedia, so we're the multimedia rights holder for OU Athletics and deal with all the sponsorship and us being in the SEC. A lot more partners are tuning in, getting more interested and wanting
Yes.
to buy into other sports. So that's been really great as well.
That is awesome. Well, I know I mentioned this earlier, but I really feel like baseball has finally taken a step up as they've needed to for years because they have gone to the postseason for several years now and gone to the World Series. And I still kick myself for not going to Omaha that year. I know it didn't turn out the way we wanted, but it was still an incredible run. But I'm hoping they go back so that I can check that off my bucket list.
Oh, yeah.
So, but yeah, it's just incredible to see the different sports and how we've incorporated, going to a new conference. And it seems like everything with the SEC, I know their slogan is it just means more, but it seems like it really does. Like everything is just like leveled up.
Yeah, more elevated. Yeah.
Literally everything. And it's crazy. I don't think people realize the difference, not even just in the fans and the support and things like that, but I'm sure, like you said, with advertising, just literally every aspect of it, I've kind of been in shock a little bit at how elevated it is compared to what we've been used to over the years. So, I mean, we're only headed in the right direction. I mean, I know a lot has changed over the years with NIL and everything, but it's a fantastic stage for our athletes and our programs to be on. And I don't know about you, but I sure am glad I'm a Sooner.
Yes. It definitely is a great time to be an OU fan for sure.
It certainly is. We've got a great season ahead of us, I think, for the Diamond Sports, and I'm looking forward to it.
It'll be a good one. I'm excited.
So, yes, well, thank you so much, Carly, for coming on and just talking all the things. I'm very excited about baseball season and just hearing and seeing you on all the things, and I appreciate you filling me in on your little corner of the world in Sooner Country. I really enjoyed it.
Yes, of course. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. This was so fun.
I hope you all enjoyed that fantastic interview with Carly. She is so sweet. I got to meet her this past weekend in person at the OU baseball game and say hello to her. She was hanging around the dugout, obviously, with the team and does her sideline reporting and stats. And she was standing on top of the dugout and had all the cameras on her, and she was just precious. So I really appreciate Carly taking the time to come on to the show. So I want to end this week's show with this week's Sooner headlines. I am recording this on Sunday afternoon, March the 23rd at about 4 o'clock, and a lot has happened this past week in Sooner sports. So quick rundown on a few things before I get to the nitty gritty. For football, the main headline right now is this Crimson Combine that's coming up on April the 12th. If you listened to last week's episode with Caitlin Fournier, we discussed how that is going to work and a little bit of what's going on with that. So I hope that you guys will get your tickets. I believe they're only $10 to get into the Crimson Combine. It's going to be different, obviously, than the normal spring game, but it's going to be a unique opportunity for us fans to get down on the field and interact with coaches and players. Our wrestling team had the NCAA championship this past weekend in Indianapolis, and unfortunately the season did not end the way that they had hoped. However, the coach said it was very promising and they have a lot to build on for next season. Our tennis team, our men beat Georgia at home this past Friday night, and our women had their 8th ranked win of the season this past Friday night as well. And I will be hosting Coach Audra Cohen, the women's tennis coach, here in just a few weeks on the pod, so I'm really looking forward to that. Our track and field teams, it's now outdoor season. They wrapped up the indoor season with lots of accolades coming out of there. They're starting off strong with the outdoor season. And I've been talking also with Coach Thomas with the track and field team, and I'm going to be hosting him on the show soon as well. So I'm really looking forward to that. Our golf team, our women's golfer Reagan Cheney is coming on the show to record with me actually later this evening, and her episode will air in a few weeks. So I'm looking forward to getting a rundown on the golf season and how things are going there with her. Our volleyball has a spring exhibition schedule out now with several matches coming up in Norman, as well as our soccer team has a spring exhibition that is currently going on as well. Now for the teams that are wrapping up their seasons or have their postseason starting now, we'll start with men's basketball. Unfortunately, our men's basketball team lost in the first round of March Madness in Raleigh the other night against UConn. You know, I had really had hopes that we would make it to round 2. I knew that if we won in round 1, we were going to end up getting Florida in round 2, which that game would have been today. And UConn, that beat us on Friday night, actually got beat today by Florida in round 2. It was an interesting game. Their coach was not happy. I was kind of pulling for UConn just because they had beat us, and that kind of makes me feel a little better if they make it further through the bracket, but unfortunately they did not. As far as our team goes, we're losing Jalen Moore, of course. Jeremiah fears his future is up in the air. We don't know what he's going to be doing. He has the potential to be drafted into the NBA. I hope that he stays another year. He could really benefit from another year of college ball, but it's not my decision to make. But we should be finding that out in the next few weeks, what his intentions are there. And also Coach Porter Moser, there have been some rumors of him being recruited to come to Villanova for their coaching vacancy. I don't know if there's any truth to that or if anything will ever come of it, but again, is something that we will be finding out more of in the coming weeks. It'll be interesting development in our men's basketball program depending on how that works out. So I'll be intrigued to see how that goes. Our women's basketball team won round 1 of their March Madness tournament that they hosted in Norman just yesterday. They beat Florida Gulf Coast, and it started out as a pretty good battle, but they ended up pulling it out with a pretty big win yesterday, and they host round 2 tomorrow, which will be on Monday the 21st 4th, so by the time this episode drops, we will know the outcome of that game. But they host Iowa in Norman at the Lloyd Noble Center on that Monday. If they win, they advance to the Sweet 16. I believe it will be in Seattle bracket or Tacoma, Washington bracket starting for next week. So we'll see the outcome of that game by the time this episode drops. The girls had a great game. Skylar Van, Reagan Beers had excellent games. Of course, my girl Peyton Verhulst. I'm really hoping to have her on the show in a few weeks as well. I told her we would touch base after the season, so fingers crossed on that one. I would love to host her after the tournament to get a rundown on the season. But our girls, man, Coach Jenny's just amazing, and we have such talent on that team. I'm really hoping they go far in the tournament. Tomorrow, when they play Iowa, again, we will know by the time this episode drops. Iowa is Coach Jenny's alma mater, so she obviously has a lot of emotion built into that game. I can't imagine having to coach against your alma mater on your own home court, but the good thing is they do have that home court advantage, and I hope they're able to capitalize on that and move on to the Sweet 16. Our women's gymnastics, they finished as co-champions of the regular season in the SEC, shared with LSU, and unfortunately in the SEC championship meet this past weekend, they did fall to LSU by just a fraction of a point. Next up for them are NCAA regionals here in a couple of weeks. I have no doubt that they will do well in that and hopefully make it into the national championship tournament, which is in mid-April, to get another shot at redeeming themselves against LSU. And I will say, I'm not trying to act like I know a lot about gymnastics scoring by any means, but Audrey Davis on bars did not get a 10, and it was a little frustrating because she had an excellent routine and should have gotten a 10 according to how some of the other scoring and the rest of the meet had gone. Faith Torres did get a 10 on the floor, which was incredible. However, I believe it was Florida. They had 3 athletes that scored a perfect 10 on their event, and they still came in third in the championship meet. So the scoring was a little crazy, but congratulations to LSU. They do have some excellent athletes, I will say that. They know how to stick a landing, and those fractions of a point really make a difference in gymnastics, and I'm really hoping that we're able to get our redemption with them later in a few weeks at the national championship. We did beat them earlier this season, pretty early in January in Oklahoma City. We hosted the Sprouts Invitational at Paycom, and LSU was one of the teams there, and we won that. So it is possible. We can beat them. So I hope that we get our chance to do that again later in the postseason. Our men's gymnastics are on a break right now. Next up for them is the MPSF Championship on April the 5th. And then the NCAA qualifiers on April 18th. I did have an interview with the men's coach, Mark Williams, and I will be airing his episode in the next couple of weeks just before they hit their time for qualifiers. Our baseball team has had a great series against Mississippi State at home this weekend. As I mentioned previously on the episode, I was there on Friday night. It was a great atmosphere. It was a great game. They have had a good battle with Mississippi State this weekend. They're actually playing right now, and I do not know the outcome of that game that they're currently playing, but I sure would like to see them go out of the weekend with a win against Mississippi State. Our softball girls, they had, unfortunately, their first loss this past weekend in Columbia, Missouri. They had a run rule win on Friday night. They won 8-0 in 5 innings, but they got their first loss on Saturday. They just couldn't get the bats going. There were several defensive issues going on, and they just couldn't get it together. But they did bounce back today on Sunday and won to clinch the series. So kudos for their huge bounce back for that. We had a home run by Nellie. Cassidy Pickering had a clutch hit at just the right time, and I have to give kudos to the girls for bouncing back from yesterday. It really was a tough environment. That crowd was very loud. I've never been to that stadium. It wasn't super big, but they did have stands in the outfield and people all along the berm in the outfield. It was extremely loud. So for them to come back today after that loss yesterday, which was, I'm sure it was a deafening loss to them. I mean, it's hard to lose, but also it was probably maybe a relief just to get it over with. I mean, it's bound to happen. It's highly unusual for a team to go undefeated, and it's just been a heck of a season for those girls, and to finally get their first loss under their belt so they can recover and move on from it, I think will help them tremendously. And again, they had a great bounce back today. You have to give him kudos for that. Sam Landry, you guys, if you have not seen her pitch, you are really truly missing out. That girl is straight nails. She really kept our team afloat this weekend in Columbia. She pitched Friday night. She did not pitch at all yesterday, but she did pitch the full game again today, all 7 innings. And honestly, we needed her. We truly did, but it was just a good win for our team today. We needed that bounce back, and we go midweek on Wednesday this week to Wichita State in Kansas, so we do play there, and then we're back home next weekend with Tennessee for our next SEC series. I will be there on Friday night. I'm hoping for a win. Tennessee's kind of had a back and forth season. I believe they lost their series to Georgia after the loss today, so I'm sure that they won't be very happy about that. So hopefully we can catch them on a downtime instead of them just getting mad when they come to Norman next Friday. So before I go, I want to give my Sooner MVP for the week, and again, I have to go back to Sam Landry. It's hard to imagine where our softball team would be without her. She has definitely cemented herself as the ace pitcher on our team this year. We have 6 really good arms on our pitching staff, and I do believe we have the talent and the potential there. Some of the others are just really struggling to get where they need to be. But the truth is, Sam can be our ace, obviously, but we also need some of those others to find their groove, because we need more than one arm to get through SEC season. Conference season is tough. All of these SEC teams are tough. They're all out to get Oklahoma. Obviously, you can't blame them, but we need more than one good, dependable arm to get us through the season. Now, yesterday, we did go through several pitchers, and we were able to get through the game accordingly with just, using an arm every couple of innings, but just being able to fall back on Sam today saved us in that series. But I don't know where we would be without her. I definitely think we would have a couple more losses under our belt, and that's not to say anything bad about the other pitchers on our staff. Like I said, we have the talent, we have the potential. They just really need to get and find their groove this season, and I believe that they will. It's still pretty early in the season. We're just now getting just a couple of weeks into conference play, and they've really got an opportunity to find their groove and get it going from here on out, and I truly believe that they will. But this week, my Sooner MVP, it has to go to Sam Landry. I can't imagine it going to anyone else. And to end this week's show with my Sooner fun fact of the week, and it is brought to you by Ham Oil Company. Did you know that Wayman Tisdale became the first former Sooner student athlete in school history among all sports teams to have his number retired at OU? So thank you all very much for your overwhelming support as usual on social media, and for all the podcast listens. If you don't already follow me, I encourage you to find me on all social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, Threads. I'm there at Sooner Girl Pod on all platforms. You can also find the podcast. It's on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and Substack. And I encourage you to please go like, follow, share, download, subscribe, and invite your friends to come in with you. Again, I'm thankful for everyone who has purchased merch. If you've purchased merch from me, please send me a pic. I would love nothing more than to see you supporting me. And you can post that photo and tag me in it as well if you would like to do that. You can subscribe for free on Substack so that you never miss anything. Have each episode and all big updates sent directly to your inbox on Substack. And you can also upgrade on Substack to become a member of the Locker Room, which is my female online huddle. For ladies, it's only $5 a month, and we do monthly Zoom meetings. We will be doing in-person meetups. You get a discount on your merch. We have a chat on the Substack app and a private group on Instagram, and several other fun perks like that. So I hope that you will consider joining the Locker Room and joining the fun. So again, thank you all for listening. If you enjoy today's episode or any other episode, I encourage you to share it with a friend, and make sure you download, follow, and subscribe across all of the platforms, social media, and for the podcast. It really helps me with your downloads and listens. So I appreciate you all very much for the support. You can find anything, all of the information regarding the pod on my link tree. It's a link in all of my bios. So I hope to see you somewhere on the internet. And thank you all for listening today. I hope you have a great week. Boomer Sooner. I'll see you next Wednesday where we talk sports.